everybody, a little bit of a different video today. If you've lost a parent or a loved one, this one's for you. So, depending upon how much you followed my journey, just catching you guys up, my dad passed away from cancer last year, just a little bit over a year ago. And there were a lot of things that happened to me at that time and since then that I never could have predicted would have happened. I didn't know how I was going to process this, how I would feel that day. And so this video is kind of a way for me to reach out to anybody that's in those shoes, maybe still dealing with it, maybe a way to offer some different perspectives, some insight, some kindness, some softness, some understanding, and go from there. I've rehearsed this video probably 100 times in my head. I figure, you know what, let me take a stab at it today. So I think first, everybody's going to go through their own experience. So this is my experience, what I've felt, and how I've chosen to deal with it. I will say, hearing the news, whether or not you already knew your parent was, my dad had a cancer diagnosis 37 days before he died. So I had some time. It wasn't like I got a phone call, hey, your dad died in a car crash. That, I think, would have been harder. I would have had less of time to process what's going on. The part here that was a little bit hard was actually my dad was improving, so they were actually thinking about sending him home from the hospital when he passed away. So it was a little bit unexpected, even though it was somewhat out there. But like, what did I feel immediately? I felt like I was in a weird dream. It was the longest 2-hour drive from Gainesville from Tampa really early that morning to Gainesville to go see him and have him taken off life support. But like, how did it affect me? In the moment, I didn't cry. I didn't cry for me at all that day. I will say I have some empathetic tendencies. I can pick up on the vibes and the frequencies and the energies of those people around me. And so seeing my mom, my brother, and especially my sister, I cried for them, but not for me at that day. I almost didn't know how I wanted to feel. I was like, am I a bad person for not feeling overly sad and crying? Like, yes, it's not a happy moment, but I just think my brain was kind of like, how do we process this? I will say this much, it's almost like waking up in a new world, realizing you're in a new world, and then realizing that the door to go back to that other world is shut forever. Case in point, in this new world, I can't talk to my dad the way I used to. Even up until like maybe a month ago. I think a month ago was the last time it happened. Something had happened to me, something had happened for me, good news. I want to go tell all my people, and I wanted to tell my dad. And it's like, oh, can't have that conversation anymore. So what I will say, if you're lucky like me and you get a chance to speak to your parent or whoever after a diagnosis, if they're in the hospital, if they might be going to the hospital, say everything you have to say. Even if it's hard, even if it's awkward, I promise you it's easier to say it then than it is to wish you had said it later. And case in point for me, my dad died right before Father's Day, so I had written him a Father's Day card. And I meant to drop it off before I left to Tampa, but prognosis was good. I figured, oh, well, I can just leave it and my mom can grab it for me in a couple days and take it over there. Life happened. So I had written down some of the things that was hard for me to say to my dad face to face. And I know he knew them, but it would have been nice to have that out there, to at least been able to give that to him. So if you're in a spot like this, put it all out there. This is your chance. And not that I'm going to sit here and kick myself or have huge regrets, but this is just another thing that I was able to learn from and gain some insight from. How do you cope with losing a parent? I guess it depends on your relationship. My dad and I were relatively close. Not as close as some people, not as close as I am with my mom, but relatively close. How do you cope with that? How do you cope with they're gone, they're not coming back? How do you move forward? You can have grief, you can have anger, you can have sadness. I chose to just try to view this with as much gratitude as humanly possible. I tried to hang on with every good memory I had. I got some of my dad's quotes that he used to tell me tattooed on me. I viewed this as a chance to honor him, thank him for all he did for me, and move forward with my life. I know my dad would not want me sitting there crying weeks on end or feeling sad. I know he would want us to be happy. We didn't even have a funeral. We had a memory of life party, or gathering or get together. But I'm gonna call it a fucking party. When it's my time to go, put it out there. There's music, there's drinks or drugs or whatever the hell you want to do, and the dress code, you're all not allowed to wear a fucking suit. Rainbow something, like happy, fun, enjoy yourselves, be around people. And that was, my dad passing connected me with some friends in high school that I hadn't spoken to in years. It connected me to a lot of my extended family that I hadn't seen before. So my dad was leaving little gifts along the way. My mom found a letter that my dad had wrote to me back in 2017. I got to read that gift. And look for every gift you can find. Instead of being sad that there's not new memories, instead of being sad that this person isn't there to be able to talk to directly, I recommend, for me, what worked for me was to just be grateful for everything I had. Some people, probably someone watching this, doesn't have a parent. And that breaks my heart. That's what's hard for me, because I did have a dad. I had a really good dad. I know he loved me. I had a dad in my life for 30 years. Not everybody gets that. And so try to hang on to the good. I feel like I had so much more. And I'm sure there is. I want to keep my dad alive by putting out the lessons that he taught me and putting that out for other people. That's how I'm processing this. I think I'm still processing it over a year later. I will say this, just some words of caution, or maybe not words of caution, but just preparing. There will be times that are harder than others. It ebbs and flows. Happiness comes in waves, so does grief, sadness. Life is not linear, it's a wave. One of the hardest things for me, actually, was when they took my dad off of life support and his mouth is hanging agape and his skin has gone white and he's clearly dead. That image was seared into my brain for a few months. Anytime somebody said, "I'm sorry to hear about your dad," that was what came to my mind. Immediately that. And I thought that was never going to leave. I almost said, "Mom, I wish I had not come to take him off life support. I wish I had done behind closed curtains. I wish that was not how I remembered my dad." A year and some change later, that vision, that seared part on my brain, it's mostly faded away. If I really think about it and fixate on it, I can think about it, but it's not what I think of when I see my dad. And how do I deal with the reminders that my dad's not here? For example, my dad went to FSU. He was a Florida State Seminole. That was some of our earliest moments bonding together, was me watching football games, having no clue what's going on, but at least I was there with my dad. And every time I see an FSU logo, a jersey, if it's playing on TV, I view it as my dad in the universe kind of just giving me a little nod, it's okay. And that's how I choose to view it. Of course, it's just like anything else. It's what you look for. As soon as you buy a 2023 blue Hyundai Tucson, you're going to see a million of them on the road. Now, I used to kind of look for the logo, but now every time I see the logo, it's a little bit more special. And I've alluded to this a few times. I said that you won't be able to talk to this person in the way you used to. Sometimes I still talk to my dad. A little bit actually less now than when he first passed. Obviously, I'm not sitting here having conversations with ghosts. It's kind of a one-sided conversation. But also I have to be careful with YouTube. This is a vegetable, a fungi. Using a certain fungi and altering my perception, I've come to terms with some things. I realized my father was not a perfect person. He, in my head, was like Superman, a big, strong guy. He did go to the gym some when I was younger, and if anything needed to be fixed or done, or if you needed somebody there for you, that was this Superman. I'm realizing my dad was not Superman, and I was not even close to him much of my 20s, as when I compared to when I was a child, and I think I had put him on this pedestal that was just unfair. He was a great father. Honestly, I think if I were to have children, I don't know if I would have been as good as him. I think that's just the honest truth. He was very good at being a dad, and so I maybe even expected more of him than was reasonable. And so being able to come to terms with that, view my dad as a human, as a person, instead of just this pedestal of a being. But I try to talk to him every now and then, at least put out what he's given me. Every time that I can tell somebody that's going through something hard or something good and saying, this too shall pass. Or when somebody can't figure something out just like I couldn't, I'll say, you'll figure it out. You always do. Because those are things my dad used to say. Or you drop a plate on your foot. First thing I said to myself, if you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough. But I use my dad. I still use him. Not always perfectly, but when I'm having maybe a hard day at the gym, or when I'm attempting a new PR, or it's something that means a lot to me in that moment, I will either speak it or think it really loudly, and I'll say, Dad, come watch this one with me. My dad wasn't very big on the gym, at least not when I started to go. Like, he went with me my very first session, and that was it. So at least he got me in the gym and paid for my membership. And I know he doesn't care about it the way I do, but he cares about me. In the same way I don't really care about football, but I care about it for him. And I'll ask him to come watch, and I'll be fully transparent with you guys. I don't always hit those numbers. Even with him there, I don't always hit the numbers. Because I'm always going for something really big if I'm going to call on that. You can't use that every time. You can't use that every set. But when I need it, it's there. And so that's how I'm processing this. I really genuinely hope that you got some value from this video. It's not easy. A lot of things in life aren't. And one last thing. Losing a parent, if they were close to you, it is painful. It's pain that you won't know until you go through it. If you've gone through it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you have no clue, because I had no clue. It's a gift. Challenge yourself. It's a gift. If you've got two parents and they don't happen to both go at the same time, you're only going to experience that gift from that parent once in your life. Maybe once more with your other parent. It's a gift. Sit there. Be in it. Don't try and cover it up with substances. Don't try and block out the rest of the world. It's going to fucking hurt. And that's okay. If it didn't hurt, then they weren't worth missing. They weren't worth being around. It's okay to hurt. You can use that. Take that with you. You're only going to get that once in your life. So don't waste it. With that, guys, I love you all. I genuinely hope this was valuable for at least one person. These were all things that I wouldn't have been able to tell you a year ago. I was not in this mindset. I had not thought this far through it. I had not been through it. So what I'm going to humbly ask you at the end of this, if you know somebody this could help, send it to them. I love you all. Take care.